I
Excellent. Thank you so much. So, Councilmember Blackman, Councilmember Thomas, thank you so much for joining us. Karen and I were lucky enough to have a discussion with Leslie about the importance of in this house and housing in Dallas, East Dallas specifically, and the conversation throughout the city. And so, you know, we're super thrilled to have you guys join us and talk about the issue and what your work looks like in your respective districts and also throughout the city as a whole. Leslie, we're happy to have you join us and talk about your work in the housing in the city of Dallas. And so, without further ado, we'll go ahead and kick it off, and I'll send it over to you, Leslie, to talk about a little bit about in this house.
Thanks. We're happy to be here and very excited because this is the launch of this program that we're hoping to roll out across the city. But my name is Leslie Shigaris-Brujink, and I am the founder of In This House, a nonprofit that focuses on affordable housing for working families here in Dallas. I'm really excited about this, what we hope to be a series that's entitled Won't You Be My Neighbor? Because as Jonathan just mentioned, we are in a housing crisis here in Dallas, and I don't have to tell you guys, especially if you were at the economic summit on Tuesday, this is an issue that is top priority for our city council members. It is coming up over and over again at city council and some of the important action items that they're taking. So I was so excited when I talked with council member Blackman and Thomas about, we're doing all these things at city council, but I feel like there's a disconnect when we talk to people about affordable housing, because even housing experts don't agree on the same terminology. Like, what is the affordable housing issue? What does it mean? Who are the people that are affected by it? And so through this wonderful partnership, we have created a very short a little over 5-minute video that I hope will set the stage for the issues that we're going to be talking about today. And then after that, I'm going to open it up and we're just going to have a casual conversation about what does housing look like for us here in East Dallas. I've been an East Dallas resident for 10 years. And I don't want to miss this. Kyle Hines is with us today too. He's the assistant director for the housing department for the city of Dallas. And I know he's all of our go-to when we have some of the more technical questions. And so we're happy that he joined for this conversation as well. So if there are no questions, then I will play our video. And if it starts and you can't hear it, someone let me know.
Is why it's needed.
Oh, let me back up. That was from the test. Here we go.
Welcome to Won't You Be My Neighbor, a neighborhood chat about housing in Dallas. In the next 5 minutes, we'll discuss what affordable housing is, why it's needed, who it serves, and a few frequently asked questions. What is affordable housing? Affordable housing is a broad term for housing that is affordable to people who earn low or moderate income levels relative to the area's median income level, often referred to as AMI or AMFI. The area median income is set by the Department of Housing and Urban Development, or HUD. It's updated annually. HUD develops the annual AMI for each metropolitan area. For Dallas, the HUD area is equivalent to Dallas County. In housing, income levels are grouped based on a percentage of the area's median income. For example, persons who are considered low income earn 50 to 81% of the area's median income. The 2022 AMI for a family of 4 for the Dallas metropolitan area is $97,400. AMI is adjusted for family size. This chart depicts the respective income levels as they relate to the area median income in Dallas. There are many tools in the housing toolbox, from temporary emergency shelters to permanent supportive housing, which focuses on helping homeless people who will always need support, to public housing or vouchers, think Section 8, to affordable housing. When we use the term affordable housing, we are most often talking about housing that supports people who earn between 30 and 80% of the area median income. Working people who are often priced out of the housing market and left behind by traditional housing assistance. So why does Dallas need affordable housing? Dallas needs housing across the board at all income levels. In 2017, the city of Dallas issued its comprehensive housing plan. At that time, it identified 20,000 homes to meet current demand. In Dallas, the housing market has priced many people out of buying a house, forcing them to seek rental options. So what does the math look like to rent an apartment? If a person earns minimum wage, they will have to work 143 hours each week in order to afford a moderate two-bedroom apartment in Dallas. Said another way, in order to afford a moderate two-bedroom apartment in Dallas and only work 40 hours a week, you need to make $25.27 an hour. Who lives in affordable housing? Affordable housing is sometimes referred to as workforce housing. That is because affordable housing supports our city's most critical workforce, including teachers, first responders, nurses, medical technicians, 911 call operators, retail workers, and waiters and waitresses. Right now, the city of Dallas is in a housing crisis. We are losing our critical workforce to surrounding areas because they cannot afford to both live and work in Dallas. Let's address 3 of the most common questions about affordable housing. First, will affordable housing decrease the value of my home? Studies from around the country show there is no evidence that affordable housing decreases property values. In 2016, Trulia published a study where it looked at affordable housing markets across the country over a 10-year period. Using Trulia home value data, it examined changes in nearby home values before and after an affordable housing development was completed. It found there was no significant effect on home values located near an affordable housing development. A 1999 study in California examined 31 separate studies. It determined that all but one study demonstrated that the addition of affordable housing had either no effect or a positive effect on surrounding property values. In 2002, the North Carolina Coalition examined 36 different studies from the mid-90s to the early 2000s. They found that data demonstrated the same principle. All but one study showed that affordable housing has either no impact or a positive impact on surrounding home values. All in all, the consensus among researchers who have examined this question found that affordable housing does not have a negative effect on property values of nearby homes. Second, will affordable housing increase crime in my neighborhood? Studies over the last 20 years show there is no correlation between the addition of affordable housing and crime rates. A 2006 University of Texas study found no evidence that low-income multifamily housing impacts crime rates for an area. A 2013 study published in Urban Studies showed after studying 200 cities, there was no relationship between low-income housing vouchers and crime rates. Many of the people who benefit from affordable housing include people who most of us would want as neighbors: teachers, first responders, nurses, and those who work for our city. Indeed, a 2014 Urban Wire study found that safety was a top priority for families moving into affordable housing. Third, will apartments increase traffic in our neighborhood? Apartments actually generate less traffic than other uses such as single-family houses or retail. A Harvard study shows single-family houses generate approximately 50% more traffic than apartment units because single-family homes have more cars per unit, are generally located further from retail centers and jobs, and use fewer alternate modes of transportation. Additionally, according to the Institute of Transportation Engineers Trip Generation Manual, which is used by the Texas Department of Transportation and civil engineers to conduct traffic studies, retail generates at least 3 times more traffic than an apartment building of the equivalent size. For questions or more information, visit In This House at www.inthisHouseTX.org.
Can you tell our voiceover does sports radio, sportscasting? But I was like, okay, you're going to do it for us and it's not my voice, you're on. Okay, well, before we open it up more broadly, I don't know, Councilmember Thomas, I know I hope I mentioned this before, but he is the head of the city's homelessness and housing committee. And I don't know if you have some opening remarks that you'd like to offer.
Sure, be glad to. First of all, thank you for having me. Hopefully it's not my last visit. I think when I think about housing as far as the city of Dallas and Councilman Blackman and I discussed this, and we've had several discussions, especially since there is a zoning case that's coming in her district to council very, very soon. And it's kind of what I believe spurred on her side a lot of this discussion, moving it forward to this level. There's just a lot of misinformation as it relates to what is affordable housing. First of all, the word affordable housing causes people to have certain perceptions. When individuals think of affordable housing, they think of individuals who are really low income. They think of people who are really outcasts. They think of drug dealers. They think of prostitutes. They think of individuals who are homeless. And as we saw in this video, and I think it's a tool that we can use all over the country. One of the recommendations that came from our racial equity audit of our housing policy, and for those who are not aware, we're in the process right now of doing a completely new housing policy that's going to have a focus around equity. But one of the recommendations was to come up with a strategy or a campaign to address NIMBYism, not in my backyardism. And so I think this video does a great job of clearing a lot of misinformation, a lot of perceptions and negative perceptions that individuals have based on their own experience and their own biases. So the video does a great job of saying, you know what, this is what quote unquote affordable housing really is. This is who, when we talk about affordable housing, the different levels, and that's the other thing people don't understand. There are different levels. We talk about AMI, different levels of AMI, and different people qualify at different levels. This is the term this is the phrase that I have began quoting because I had a very challenging project in my district for a affordable housing unit. And what I said is, here's an opportunity for us to serve those who serve us on a daily basis. When we talk about our teacher assistants, when we talk about individuals who work as in restaurants, and so many of the different in our service industry, these are the individuals, and this has to be the changing face of affordable housing. Once we begin to change the face and show a variety of faces, especially faces of people who we look forward to seeing when we go to our favorite restaurant or serving us when we stay at our favorite hotel, when we begin to see those individuals as the face of affordable housing, then the perceptions that people have about affordable housing will change. I'll stop there.
Thank you so much. Councilmember Blackman, anything you want to say before we open it up to our...
Yes, and thank y'all for having us here today to have this discussion, because I believe it is needed to understand what the city is trying to achieve. As it's been mentioned, we do have a shortage of housing, and Kyle can give you the number, but it's 20,000 in 2017, and I think we've just been adding enough units to cover the need for that year. So we are still in a needed state, and it's at all income levels. And that is a good thing for our city. That means our city is thriving. Our city people are moving here. It's a commerce center, but that also means that we as the city have to address it. Otherwise we will be, homelessness will go crazy. People will be living out further. And you as folks from the chamber know that getting a workforce is hard, and getting a workforce to drive into 30 to 45 minutes is even harder, especially when you've got $4 a gallon gas. And so we need to create these opportunities for people to live and work and worship in the areas that they live, work, and worship. And so we have to have income levels at every spot. And Casey, as a city council, we can't mandate developers to put in certain amount of units. The state has said no. So we incentivize that. And that is where we are today, is we have these tools, and Kyle can talk about how we can work with and partner with developers to get to that point where we have these different price points of housing. I think I had heard that if you had bought like in 2017 to 2019, that was when the housing market was still at not at this crazy, where you're seeing prices of what for that. And so now my kid couldn't buy back into East Dallas. He couldn't. And that's the reality. And what we have to do as a city and as a community is work to get these projects, these developments, because what it does mean is that when you have people living here, I can then go and get a grocery store. I can then go incentivize more economic development. And that's, I think, what everybody wants in their community is places to shop. They don't want to go out of their neighborhood. And so this is a big, complex, issue that we're working through, and every community doesn't have the same solution. But I am grateful that council is working with staff and with partners to figure out what each community needs and how to get that done. And so I'm grateful that y'all are having us here today to start this conversation, because I do think it is needed. Thanks, Leslie.
So I know there's some other things that we can talk about, but I'll first just open it up. If anyone has any questions or comments that they'd like to make.
Go ahead.
Well, I was just hoping to get Councilmember Blackman maybe a little bit more detail on the housing needs in East Dallas as it pertains to how it differs from the rest of Dallas. How does District 9, for example, different from District 13 or District 12?
So yeah, Jonathan, we still have some affordable pockets in East Dallas. And so we are working towards preserving those affordability pockets. Casa View, Little Casa View, those are still affordable, and they are changing demographics. So it's an aging population. And so we're also then working to create better corridor connections, like on Ferguson Road and even on Garland Road, as we talked about, to get a little bit more density and then create more better transportation connections. And so the housing, I don't have an exact number because we don't do it as far as this district needs X amount of units, but we are considered a high opportunity area. And so we want that mixed income opportunity, because if you notice on the east or the west side where you have Lakewood, I mean, that's pretty much I don't think we could go dense and we can do any type of it doesn't pencil out. But as you move over towards our transportation corridors, more like the 3G area, it's got a opportunity to go a little denser along Garland Road, along Ferguson, that we're doing a corridor study. Those are opportunities to create that mixed income while preserving the mixed income and the affordability that we have in the Far East area. And so that's what we are working towards. And Kyle, I know you're on. And so if you want to chime in and give more of the technical terms, happy to hear.
And one thing you might address, Kyle, and correct me if I'm wrong, but so without getting too deep in the terminology, but we don't have two of the main tools that we can use to affect workforce housing. So that's what my nonprofit focuses on, people that make between 60 and 80% of the area income are tax credit deals or public facility corporation deals. Those are kind of the best tools for that. And they incentivize development in different ways. But without getting into that, we don't have any of those deals right now in East Dallas. There's one that Councilmember Thomas just mentioned that's coming before City Council very soon. A disclosure, I hope to be the nonprofit partner that works with that development to provide services to the residents there. But prior to that, I don't think we have those kinds of developments in our district at all at this point, unlike some other districts. But
And that is true. And we don't have homeless, any type of homeless, like I know there are different types of, we purchased hotels to do housing for veterans, housing for domestic violence. We don't have ND9. We've been trying to figure that out. So we don't have a lot of things that the rest of the city is trying to do. So that way it's not concentrated. And so we're trying to be innovative of how do we create opportunities to help people, because we are in a housing crisis. And that, so, but Kyle, you can chime in.
Yeah, can you guys hear me now? I always have to, whenever I go to Zoom, I have to switch my mic. So I apologize. I'm Kyle Hines, Assistant Director in the Department of Neighborhood Revitalization and Housing. I just want to echo what Chairman Thomas said, Councilwoman Blackman said. We need housing all over the city, and we have all different types of needs and tools to be able to make that happen. But just to kind of also, we all just heard this, but we need housing at all different types of income bands, from 30% all the way up to market and luxury housing. So there is a housing shortage. So we're trying our best to do that. So there is an item coming up to council to have one of the first public facility corporations in developments in East Dallas that will provide housing for 80% AMI and below. So that's your 54,000 to 77,000 income families. So we're excited about that. We hope everything goes well on that. I will say that there is a tax credit development called Estates at Shiloh that is there, but that's reserved for seniors earning at or below 60% AMI. And there are some market rate units there as well, but that's almost going to be completed. So everybody on this call will be invited to the the ribbon cutting ceremony. And that'll be very exciting. And we have a few other developments coming through the pipeline that, in fact, a few of them are actually on Housing Committee on Monday. So we'll be talking about this there on Monday, and I'll give Chairman Thomas and Councilwoman Blackman a heads up with some memos and everything. So, but with that, we have various tools. We have federal grant dollars to help subsidize housing. We're looking at both for sale housing and rental housing. We need both. We need to provide, because most of the market rate for sale housing is just completely out of line with what people can actually afford. So we are helping with paying for infrastructure costs, land acquisition, development for sale housing. That's part of it. We're also hoping to start maybe building townhome style units to get a little bit more density in our traffic corridors closer into the central business district near jobs. So that'll be also something we're trying to do. And then we have our tax credit program that provides deeper affordability through the IRS's low income housing tax credit program. And then we also have our public facility corporation, like I mentioned, that provides property tax exemptions in exchange for providing affordable housing. Any type of affordable housing or workforce housing or whatever you want to call it needs to have some sort of subsidy some way, somehow, because developers need to be able to recoup the costs or the loss of revenue. So when we provide property tax exemptions, that's the reason why. They could have made all 100% market rate, and they would have made X amount of revenue. And for charging for the 80% AMI or 60% AMI rents, they will lose out on that revenue and not have market returns that their debt and equity partners are seeking for the development. So by providing an operational subsidy or a development subsidy through our home or CDBG funds, that's how we get there. That's how we make it happen. So when you hear subsidized housing, just know this, that I don't have a lot of developers coming out of the kindness of their hearts to take less money. There are debt and equity funds that do invest in kind of ESG type investment, but they still need their returns. And with the rising construction costs and just the exorbitant amount of money it costs for land in this city, it still requires some sort of subsidy. So we're working on it. We're trying our best here. We have, I think my last count in just the LIHTC program, we have over 3,000 units underway, which totals about $760 million worth of development, but it's not enough. You heard the numbers kicked around, 20,000 units needed. That was back in 2017. There was another report that said 44% of all renters in the North Texas area are cost burden. So we need to keep going. I like to say that it gives me job security, but I'd love to not have a job and just have enough housing out there for everybody that wants it. So that's kind of where we're at. And I'm more than happy to answer technical questions on the PFC. You can also watch me at council. We talk about this quite a bit. So I'll leave it at that for now.
Mike, I know you had a comment or a question.
I always have, no. I support what Councilperson Blackman said about, and that's what we're having this discussion on a development on Garland Road. You know, what comes first, residential or retail? Well, it's rooftops. If you've got the rooftops, that will drive the retail and move it up maybe even a notch. That's why I'm so supportive of that particular project. The other thing is, on a national or macro level, the big cities in this country are facing a real shortage of population. They're going away. They're going away, obviously, sometimes it's the quote, the old white flight, but more importantly, it's affordable housing is affordable outside the city. Therefore, the commute times take much longer as far as that goes. 77 of the top 88 cities in 2020 lost population for the first time in ages. And that's something that we as a city are going to have to face. I do have a question. Kyle, right? Yes, okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Kyle, on the Estates of Shiloh is open. Are you not talking about the new estates that taking over the old White Rock Church of Christ? That will come out of the ground in 2 years, won't it?
Oh, wow, you're well ahead of the game here. Yeah, estates at Ferguson. I haven't even brought. There's a memo out
Okay.
for a pre-feed memo. That
Right.
one, that we're working on that one. Yes, we're
Okay.
excited about
But
that.
let's share. Okay, we've got the shoreline development, which is 51. I'm the developer. 51% of my units have to be affordable housing, but for that I get my tax credits. But I get 49% at market rate. You can make the numbers work. Number two, though, how does the Estates at Shiloh? We were sold on the idea and supported it with the fact that 10% of those units had to be below the AMI qualifier, and then there was a discount for seniors. But when we've gotten into it, it's inching more toward market rates, which I kind of understand. Explain how that senior housing, because there's the Estates at Ferguson is going to do the same thing.
So the Estates at Shiloh was a 4% non-competitive low-income housing tax credit development. And that program requires that you do the equity that you get from tax credits, and the tax credits you get is based solely on the number of affordable units you have at the property. So the Estates at Shiloh has 90% of their units reserved for seniors 55 and older at 60% AMI and below. And then the Estates at Shiloh, the Estates at Ferguson will take the same structure. So I don't know if there was where the potential market rate issue was. There is 10% market at Estates at Shiloh, but
Okay, so 10% are at the discounted rate, whatever rental rate. It's been a very big process.
10% are not are at market rates. 90% are actually affordable. And that's the nature of the tax credit program. The Shoreline Church potential development is the Public Facility Corporation, which simply gives a property tax exemption. With the low income housing tax credit program, there's actual equity investors, and they provide the equity for the project. And those generally have a much higher level of affordable units in there because of the nature of the program, that you only get tax credits for the affordable units that you provide.
Okay, good. My last statement, and I'll let you have it back, I confirm and support when we did the Larkspur development at Peavy and Garland Road, the Garland thrift store had more traffic, unbelievably, a retail, as opposed to what this new development of only 60 to 80 units is going to be. It was just amazing when we saw the traffic study. You could go by in the middle of the day, and they had something like 300 cars.
Absolutely. And that's one of the things that I talked about, particularly with Council Member Blackman, is, you know, we hear these same questions each time a development comes up, like, is it going to increase my traffic? Increase traffic. And it makes sense, I think, to someone who hasn't seen traffic studies before. Well, you have more units, but when we look at the traffic studies, it really goes the other way, which
Well, and Leslie, now that people are working from home, they may not leave in a day, or they'll leave at noon and go pick up something to eat. Or if they could walk someplace, they could grab something to eat. So, yeah, the retail, there is that influx because there are people coming, it's all day. And, and so there is that rotation of people because it is a retail establishment. When it's a housing establishment, it is literally either trips in the morning or trips in the evening. Or maybe not even trips at all, but in the middle of the day if they're working from home, because now everybody has a hybrid way of working now. So.
absolutely. Well, I know I promised the council members that we'd finish up just after 9 because they have other meetings.
Is there any other questions?
Okay.
And we can do.
Brad, I think you had something, right?
Yeah, if you don't mind, I really do appreciate your time, Council Members Thomas and Blackman. And I know this is a really tough issue because you're forced to try to balance the argument about capitalism and the free market and people getting as much money as they can get for these, while also trying to find ways to keep affordable housing in this. And I know from a police force standpoint alone, Dallas trains up all these police officers, and then they go out to various suburbs and other places where they're making more money and have more affordable housing. But my question is there some type of incentive or something that we can do for single family landlords, single family home landlords? I know Section 8 has a negative connotation, but something like that where we can, because especially in D9 and in East Dallas, there's a lot of renters of single family homes. But if there's some type of program, and maybe there is, and I'm just not familiar with it, some type of program where we incentivize or give a credit to, or whatever the case is, to a single family homeowner that is acting as a landlord, is there something we can do there to try to incentivize that and make those types of rent? Because people with pets typically like to try to find a house that they can rent, or whatever the case. So I'll stop talking and let y'all answer. So thanks.
I think that's a Kyle question.
Yeah, so you did mention vouchers, and that is that's all administered by the Dallas Housing Authority, the Housing Choice Voucher Program. One of the issues is that a lot of landlords, both single family and multifamily, don't accept vouchers. We're creating a program to have and this is being run out of our Office of Community Care and Office of Homelessness Solutions, but a partnership where we can provide a master lease, we as the city, to help landlords go through the process of starting to accept vouchers, and then also provide financial backing for the home buyer, so that if there is an issue where maybe they lose their voucher or they stop paying, the city can step in and provide some sort of backstop. This is being considered and proposed. It's not actual policy yet, but those are some of the strategies that we can have. We're also trying to have anti-displacement fund where we can assist home buyers that have lived, or homeowners or home buyers or people that have lived in the neighborhood for 10 years can qualify for down payment assistance if they were to purchase a home. So that's a little bit different than single family rental, but yeah, there are strategies out there. We're trying to come up with new ones. But then again, it is hard to get. You're right when you were talking about balancing capitalism and what people can make and what's affordable and what's not. And it's trying to get everybody on the same page and moving in the right direction, because we do need to make sure that we have places for the people that want to live and work in Dallas to be able to do so. So we'll keep plugging away at the master lease program. I have not been able to join any of the meetings with them. It's being run through in a conjunction with the Child Poverty Action Lab. So we're hoping to have that become a very strong program for us.
Perfect.
Karen,
Thank
did you have a question?
Yes, I did. I'm curious, what is the relationship or the role that you all envision the chamber plays in this?
I'll be happy to take that. I think the conduit for information, being the honest broker to say, this is the reality, given that you had the economic summit, right? And so that's a great starting point, that this is where we are in East Dallas. And how do we build on that to allow for a mixed everything community? I mean, Karen, that's why we moved here. I mean, it's because we felt like we could, it was just diverse. It was inclusive. It was the lake. And so I think the chamber, given where you are as an economic hub, you are positioned to say, these are the facts, this is the reality, and help us get to the solutions. And the solutions, those are, let's discuss them. But it is to try to create that diversity that we all want here in East Dallas. And it's an economic thing. I mean, if people, we have small businesses here. And if you saw the stat, they need to make $25 to have to be market rate. I don't know if folks here pay that, but if they had units where their workers could work and afford it, then they could pay them at their wage, and then they could live here. And then they wouldn't have the commute times. They could go to their kids' school. They could be a part of our community and attend chamber events. And so I think that's what we're trying to ask the chamber to be, is that messenger to say, we don't need a stand, we don't need a position paper, but this is the reality, and be the convener of those safe discussions to happen within our community.
And I'll say Paula has been one of the leaders on trying to get information out there. So the Public Facility Corporation, as an example, while it's not a new tool to Texas, it is a relatively new tool to Dallas, only started at the beginning of this year. And there's a lot of confusion and misinformation out there. People hear property tax exemption and they think, why is a developer getting that? Well, they don't know that the city owns the land and the property, and it's only a ground lease, and that the city gets hundreds of thousands of dollars back in rent payments and upfront payments. And so Councilmember Blackman had the great idea to have two meetings for the community about what is PFC, what does it mean? Well, unfortunately, the only people that come to that are people that are interested in housing or people that wanted to hear about the Shoreline project. And so that's kind of one of the other things of, you guys already have a lot of people that are in the real estate space, as you mentioned, Karen, at the Economic Summit, and trying to just get some of the information out there. These are what these tools really are, and then help get feedback from the community of what do we want to see in our area? What do we want East Dallas to be? And so I know when Councilmember Blackman and I talked about this, and we were very passionate about starting in East Dallas where we live, that's kind of what we envisioned, was today being a starting point for these conversations that we hope to have over the next year.
And as Councilman Magoo mentioned, we're going through that Forward Dallas conversation. And so that is the great place for y'all to kind of be a convener and then incorporate what does a mixed income community look like in our neighborhood. And so, especially as we go through the Ferguson Road corridor, and I think I've been talking to folks about reopening the Garland Road vision along with the Forward Dallas to see, what adjustments needs to be made because it's a more traveled roadway. And I would love to take it over from the state. So that way we can be more intentional with that space. But we've got to have a plan that shows that this is why we want to do it. And we want to have broader sidewalks. We want to look at maybe a rubber car trolley or a BRT. I mean, we want connectivity. And I think the chamber is greatly positioned to be that convener for East Dallas and partner with FRI, partner with the Casa View Alliance, and actually bring people together to have robust conversations, because I'm not afraid of having the conversation. And let's do that, because where it takes us is going to be where we need to go. And so that's why I see the role of the chamber.
Well, as a part of personal privilege, as the chair of this committee and a representative of Atmos, I know a huge part of affordable housing is affordable utilities and energy. And so natural gas is still the cheapest utility in most people's homes. And so want to do a highlight choice and reliability and affordability on that side. Other than that, are there any other questions, comments?
Excellent.
Leslie,
I want to
Councilmember
thank
Blackman.
the council members and Leslie and Kyle for being here today. This has been eye-opening for me and something that I want to continue having these conversations. And Karen, I know you work with the realtors group. I think this would be a great topic to kind of get in front of the Realtors Association there. And I'm drawing a blank on the acronym that MLS.
MetroTex.
Yeah, in
Yes.
fact, I suggested to Leslie, they're always looking for speakers at those East Dallas MLS meetings. So I think they'd be very open to this, Leslie. And I will say, I learned a lot today, you guys. I'm kind of in my own little bubble in the real estate market. And one quick comment, Paul, you and I can probably both relate to this because you mentioned it, but my kid, and nobody dissed the University of Texas, please, but she came out of college and she has a decent job. And it is really, really hard to find her a place that I feel safe her living in. So I get it. And I'm experiencing it firsthand too, but I did learn a lot today. So thank you.
Wonderful.
And I
For the
learned the
record,
word convener.
Councilmember Thomas,
Convener.
we're going to take you up on this not being the last time you join us. We appreciate you joining us. Great guest to have. Councilmember Blackman, as always, thank you so much. Leslie, thank you for bringing this idea to us and bringing this discussion to the chamber and to the committee specifically. Kyle, we appreciate your expertise and your technical jargon, making everybody understand the work that you're putting in. And for the record, it's not surprising to anybody on this call that Mike is way ahead of the curve. His name is humble, but in East Dallas, he goes by Sir Mike Nuri.
Absolutely.
Mayor of Casa View.
Right.
That's
Thank
it.
you all so much for joining us, and we appreciate the discussion.
Thank you so
Thank you.
much.
Everyone have a
Thank
great
you.
day.
Thank y'all.